This next part is going to be neon lit after dark. It's going to be a little more sultry. Oh, yeah, that got your attention. All right. So, we have a couple more readers for you this evening. You can still make noise, but when people start reading, please stop. So our next reader is Kate Shapiro. She's an MFA fiction writer and prophet. Yes. With Timothy Chalamet, she will live in a house. And not just any house, she'll live in the Winchester house. In lieu of children, they will produce a cloud of spores. And she will work as a snake wrangler. Kate will have 4 publications, all gospels for her cult. And her first gospel will be dedicated to Lynn Cheney. So without further ado, Kate Shapiro.
Okay. So instead of reading from my thesis, I'm like, Zach, I just can't deal with it anymore. I'm going to read 3 separate pieces of writing from 3 very different times in my life and all different genres. Because I figured today is a milestone in my writing career, so I think it's appropriate to look back on my life/career. Because we're giving speeches, thank you, Doug and Miley, for believing in me. Thank you, Ryan and John and Alex and everyone here for believing in me. So this is the first piece. I'm 12 years old. It is a journal entry from December 6, 2001. Wow, I'm going to bed early. Well, we visited Momo and Popo. Those are my grandparents. That was cool. They look fine. Popo had cement put in his spine. Momo got into a car accident. Well, anyway, I think that the attacks on September 11th weren't Osama bin Laden, who I keep calling in these essays about 9/11, and the Al-Qaeda network. I think he's showing off, saying, oh, I did it, and some other psychopath did that. And why are we all in Afghanistan's business? I mean, can't we take care of ourselves? Lord, stay in your own business, George W. Bush. We never messed with Afghanistan until now. Not that the Taliban didn't suck and all, but the Northern Alliance could have taken care of it if you didn't have to get the whole damn United Nations fighting a poor country, gosh. Oh yeah, Shorts, Amanda's dog, is pregnant. Can you believe it? She's due in a week to have them. Wow. And she's known this for a while, and she told Elizabeth, but did I know? No. I hate Elizabeth. So that's what happened in December 2001 to me. The next is when I was 18 years old. So the summer before college, I got a ticket for being drunk at a party at this girl named Laura Gregory's house. It's a really long story, and it involves me keeping the ticket from my parents for like 4 months, and my dad finding it in my purse while I was getting my wisdom teeth taken out. And then when I was in his car afterwards, he just screamed at me while he was buying me a milkshake from Sonic, and I was very stoned the entire time from all the drugs from getting surgery. And so I ended up having to complete an alcohol awareness course, and then I went to college and then forgot to turn everything in, so I had a warrant out for my arrest. So I wrote the court the following letter. Dear City of Carrollton Municipal Court, I am writing this letter in reference to case number 783468. I have recently become aware that my presence is required in court because I failed to meet some of my deferral requirements. I paid the $200 deferral fee, and I attended alcohol awareness course in a timely manner. However, I was supposed to do 8 hours of community service projects with the GDCADA, don't know what that is anymore, which I had failed to do in the time I was giving. And this reminds me of Teaching 101 because this was my excuse for not complying with the court, and I thought this would work. Beginning college is a stressful time for everybody. I realize that is not a very good excuse for not meeting my requirements in a timely fashion, but there you go. I I just finished my service projects today, and I plan to send them to the judge. I have attached them with this letter in order to provide proof that I'm going to follow through with finishing the requirements. A sentence that makes no sense. I will do anything in order to rectify this situation. If you need to get in contact with me about the court date or anything, do not hesitate to write back or call. I hope very much that we will be able to work together in order to make this better. Sincerely, Kate Shapiro. So I want to read you the opening of my essay about alcohol for my alcohol awareness course that I attached to this email to the court. The Merriam-Webster definition of the word alcohol is ethanol, especially when considered as an intoxicating agent in fermented and distilled liquors. Alcohol is used for many purposes, among them medical, and even as a fuel. Alcohol is one of the main ingredients for antifreeze that is used in car engines. Alcohol is a beverage that has been consumed since the very beginning of civilization. The beverage is made by means of fermentation using glucose. Alcohol in moderate doses leads to euphoria as well as social confidence. In extreme consumption, it can lead to alcohol poisoning and death. Alcohol poisoning is serious and deadly. If one even thinks another person has alcohol poisoning, they should call 911 immediately. Under no circumstances should anyone allow this person to, quote, sleep it off, because in some cases, alcohol poisoning can lead the victim to fall into a coma, and that could possibly lead to death. When alcohol poisoning is concerned, it's better to be safe than sorry. So now I'm going to go forward to now, when I'm 29 years old. As some of you may know, I write fan fiction. So my thesis novel, which I'm not reading from today, it's about a girl whose brother dies in a mass shooting. It's a lot about how we deal with grief and how other people impose narratives on that grief and how we impose our own narratives on that grief. So when I'm working on an idea, especially a big one like that, I use fan fiction to kind of work those ideas out. It's a lot less stressful than looking at that manuscript and getting pages into it. So when Ariana Grande and Pete Davidson broke up because Pete sent Mac Miller, her dead ex-boyfriend, photographs of Ari and Pete having sex, and then right after that, Mac killed himself, I wrote a little piece that was helping me articulate some of my feelings about grief in a non-scary way. So I will read that. That will be my last thing. You've gone through me in a journey I've done when I was young and when I was 18 and now today. She knew that people thought Mac died because she dumped him and then got engaged to Pete a month later. She liked to think that the world didn't know the real her, but what if they did? What if her self had been chiseled away by fame and the people at TMZ actually knew the dark parts of her soul? What if they had erased her and wrote a new version of her that even she believed? Ariana couldn't remember a time when strangers didn't impose a version of her onto her. Because really, honestly, she thought it too, that if she hadn't dumped Mac, so flagrantly fell in love with Pete, that maybe he would still be alive. Maybe he wouldn't have gone back to drugs and died alone in a house full of people who wiped away the evidence that they had helped him die, allowed it to happen. She couldn't help who she fell in love with. She often defended herself that way. But really, couldn't she? She could have done it differently. She could have let him find out from her and not from Twitter. She could have called him when he got a DUI. She could have not kissed Pete on all those fucking red carpets. She found it hard to kiss Pete now. Fuck, she hated having a brain. Suddenly, all of her eyelashes. Oh yeah, another thing. I don't know how to write magical realism, and this is my first attempt ever to do it. Zach and Tamia and Tim, they all write magical realism, and so I was like, I want to do it too. So this is me doing that. Suddenly, all of her eyelashes turned into hummingbirds. Then her entire body. It's not as good as them, obviously. Then her entire body turned into a flock of birds, and they flew up to heaven, where Mac was sitting on a puff of cloud in a very green and vibrant valley. Mac, she, as a flock of birds, exclaimed, "You're in heaven." She, as a flock of birds, flew up to him and zoomed around his head happily. She landed on his shoulder and he rubbed her little bird head. Yeah, baby, duh, he said. Just got finished fucking. She, as a flock of birds, became aware of a thin girl smoking a jewel on a puff of cloud next to him. That thin girl was Ryan Malloy, sitting right over there. Baby, Max said, all of the rivers in heaven flow with lean. Baby. She, as a flock of birds, suddenly noticed rivers of bright red promethazine traversing a stunning canyon full of different colored cacti. Mac loved cacti. I miss you, Mac, she, as a flock of birds, said to Mac. He was glowing, the brightest spot in all of heaven. She missed his face, his eyes, his cute little mouth. Oh, babe, I miss you too. I love you. He took her face, still a flock of fucking birds. In his hands, she felt too many emotions at once, and her little bird consciousness fell back through the clouds into her Tribeca love and reanimated back into Ariana. At least she thought that happened. She wanted that to happen. It felt like the time in her life she should become a flock of birds and fly to heaven to talk to Mac Miller, who would tell her he was okay. She took a hit of her vape pen. If she got high enough, maybe she could hallucinate herself into a different world where life was measured in cosmic transformations. Instead of hallucinating, she moved through life as a human. She ordered Postmates. She watched episodes of Dawson's Creek, the greatest television show of all time. She told Pete that they needed to talk. She got through her grief like a human, and not as a flock of birds rising towards heaven. Thank you.